All right. So, also, as we kick off, we're going to get started now. Welcome again to the IET Implementation Clinic. Today's kickoff and orientation webinar. We're really excited to see you all here. I think we have a group of 21 in this cohort, so it's a great size. And we'd like to ask you just to go ahead and some of you have already introduced yourself in the chat. And Jeffrey says, "What's free time?" But we'd love for you to share something that you do in your free time, or something that you like to do or enjoy doing outside of your work time, just to get to know you a little better. And our team here at CalPro will also play and share. Great, Jeffrey. Thanks. You love reading and podcasts. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Jeffrey. Nice. Dr. St. Paul, time with your daughter. Thanks for sharing that. All right. So keep going. Korean dramas, Peter. How cool. Oh, Susan, singing in piano bars. Oh, Susan, once we get to know each other better, maybe you'll share some clips with us. That's awesome. We love it. Thank you, guys. Thanks for sharing all of this. Keep them coming, what you like to do in your free time and introducing yourself in the chat. We really appreciate it. I'm going to get us going. So again, on behalf of CalPro and our team, welcome to the IET Implementation Clinic. I'm Amy Dalsimer, and I've been leading this implementation clinic, the IET Implementation Clinic, for I think more than 8 years now. It's one of the favorite things that I do as part of my job here with CalPro as an IET subject matter expert and a consultant. Before joining CalPro 8 years ago, I was the executive director of a very large adult education program at LaGuardia Community College in New York City. And while I was there, I had the privilege of implementing multiple IET programs. Back then, in fact, we didn't even call them IET often, but it was some of the best work I did in adult ed. So I'm really thrilled to be here and lead this clinic with my colleagues, Sudie and Adria and Maria at CalPro, because it was really meaningful work for me, and I really am happy to share with you the lessons that we learned from firsthand experience, kind of, all the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that we can help you as you build and strengthen your IET models in California. So with that, I want to turn it over to my colleague, Sudie.
Thank you, Amy. Hi, everybody. I'm Sudie Whalen. I am a senior TA consultant here at AIR, and I'm also our I can't even remember, instructional training advisor for CalPro. Like totally spaced on my own title. Before working at CalPro, before working at American Institute for Research and CalPro, I was consulting with CalPro for a few years while I was still in the classroom. And when I was teaching, I taught at Liberty Adult Education Center in Brentwood, California, not LA suburb Brentwood, Bay Area town, small town Brentwood. And I led integrated programs. And I like to say that Amy and I did IET before IET was cool, and we had to do it out of necessity before there was anybody to help us figure out what we were supposed to do and how to do it. So hopefully your learning curves aren't as steep as ours were, and you will learn from some of the mistakes and pain points and things that we learned across the way, so you don't do the same things that we had to grow through and learn through and get through those pain points. So really excited to have all of you here. Happy to be working with LACCD again. And now we'll pass it to Adria to introduce herself.
Thanks, Sudie, and thanks, Amy. My name is Adria Katka, and I am a technical assistance consultant with AIR. Really enjoy working with this CalPro team on primarily you may see me elsewhere in CalPro working on online courses. I'm our online course coordinator, but especially I really love working with IET Implementation Clinic. My adult ed background prior to AIR and even now is in ESL instruction, community college, which is where I teach in my home state of Washington. I'm in Seattle, Seattle based, and so that background in ESL and digital literacy, employability skills, and that kind of thing led me into, at some point many years ago, a co-teaching assignment in an IBEST course, which is the IET model here in my home state. And so I'm talking about it that way because it was sort of this, all the things that you do that bring you into this one particular assignment that becomes and blooms into something else and leads you to other opportunities. So I was, our ESL and basic skills instructor in our IT IBEST pathway. I'm a technology user and a digital literacy person, but do I have a background in building computers or programming? I do not. And did I co-teach in that setting? I sure did, and learned a lot while doing it, and hopefully also helped a lot others learn a lot of things as well. That I'm describing it that way because that sort of encapsulates my passion and appreciation for IET as a model, knowing that there are so many ways that we can team and partner together to make a lot of things possible. So I'm going to leave it at that and send
Thanks,
it back to Amy.
Adria. Thanks,
Thanks.
Adria. And I want to also mention that Maria is here. Maria, I don't know if you want to just turn on your camera and wave. Maria is essential to our team. Thanks, Maria. She is here to provide tech assistance to us and to you. So if you have any issues or you need any help, you can reach out to Maria directly, or you can just post in the chat, whatever tech questions or issues you're having, and Maria will respond and try to help you. So with that, before we go ahead, I just want to ask you again, for those of you who might have just joined us, if you can come on camera, please do. We love to see you. And if you have not yet already updated your name, you can click on your photo on the three dots there and hit rename. We want to make sure that we have the name you want to be called, and we want to know what school or agency you're from. And if you happen to be attending with other people in the room, some of you I think are together as teams, just go ahead and put into the chat who you're with so everybody can get credited for their attendance. Okay, with that, today, our goals really are to introduce you to the clinic, why we're here, what the format and the calendar of our time together will be, and the expectations that we have of you as part of this clinic, and also what you can count on us to do. We want to give you kind of an intro to the key elements of IET program design today. It's just kind of that high level. Over the months ahead during our training, we're really going to dig deeply into many of those program design elements. So today's kind of the bird's eye view. We're going to start you thinking about some of those important IET program planning considerations and initial decisions that as a team and as a school you need to make, and really launch our community of practice here today as a group. We have a lot of different levels of experience in this group, and the clinic is really designed so we can support and learn from one another. So we're going to start with those key elements, but honor that many of you have and are bringing experience to this clinic, and that's how we've designed it. So with that, you've already introduced who you are, but we'd like to ask you, and you've hopefully shared your agency, but we'd like to know now, what is your role in your IET program? Are you the uh, CTE teacher? Are you the ESL or ABE teacher? Are you a coordinator? Are you a career navigator? Or are you something else? So let us know what your proposed role is, if you know it, and one question you have about implementing IET as we're starting today. What's one question that you're bringing to the clinic? I'm going to give you a minute. Let those your roles and questions come in. Great. Thank you, Dr. St. Paul. What are the barriers to implementation? Yes. Great. We're going to talk a lot about that over the months ahead. So thank you. Great question. And if you don't know who's on your team, it's possible that you got invited to this clinic, or maybe even voluntold, um, and you don't know who your team members are. So you can begin to see here maybe who's from your agency and what their roles are. and know that you'll be getting to know each other very well over the months ahead. You want to know more about the pathways, Mary. Great. Other questions, please go ahead and post. What are your questions, or what what might you be if you already have an IET program, what are you struggling with that maybe you want help with in the clinic? What are the CTA areas that are available? Great, Ruth, thank you. Lesson plans, Kathy, excellent. What are the most effective teaching structures, co-teaching versus alternating teaching? I'm gonna say your name wrong, probably Sudeka, so you can correct me, please.
Hi, Sadika.
Sadaka, thank you. I'm gonna butcher names for a while, but I promise you I'll get them right. Sadaka, thank you. That's a great question and something we are going to be getting into starting today and moving forward. These are great questions. Keep them coming, you guys. All right. So, and we want to know right now, we would not ask you guys to do a poll right now. Where are you in the IET implementation process? So there should be a poll popping up. We are still in the planning phase. We have everything in place and are getting started. We're piloting our first program, or we have at least one program securely in place already. And I'm going to let you guys go ahead and fill out that poll. And if you don't know, uh, maybe that would be the planning phase, or you could just put in the chat, I don't know. And that's totally fair. All right. I see a lot of you have participated. We have about 80% participation. We'd love to get a few more. Anybody else? Okay, let's go ahead and publish the results so everybody can see them. All right, so uh, it looks like about half of us are just really starting this, or a little less than half that you're really beginning to plan, which is great. The clinic is designed to walk you through it, the whole process. Some of you are piloting, which is also great. I think there's a lot of information and tools that you're going to be able to fold into your pilot very quickly. And some of you have at least one program securely in place, and that's great too. You can bring that experience, help us, help your colleagues learn from what you've already done. And also, I think there's going to be probably a lot of reworking and evaluating of what you have in place and how to strengthen it as we go through the clinic. So thanks for sharing that. All right, and that sort of lines up with how you guys, we asked you on the application how our group here rated their expertise in designing and implementing IET, and that what you said about like where you are kind of lines up with what you said. We have a lot of beginners as well as intermediate and advanced kind of IET thinkers and program designers. So again, it's going to be a great cohort. There's a wide range of comfort and knowledge, and that's excellent for building our community here. Um, the other thing we asked you was, what were your goals for the training? And many of you share similar goals and interests in attending the training. You identified as your top goals a program, looking at program implementation and operations, curriculum design, lesson plannings and lesson integration, and also compliance, reporting, and funding questions, or learning more about that. So together, these kind of indicate a strong demand among our group here for practical and applied guidance, especially around how IET actually operates and works, and how we can stay compliant. So your team's active participation in the clinic is really going to help you design a robust program. Following the clinic steps and the guidance will help you certainly to fill out those IET plans and applications that we know are upcoming, right? Many of you have top of mind probably about funding and those applications. And we just want to say that for really specific questions related to that application, compliance, or reporting on your program, we really encourage you to reach out to Casas, who manages that process, with your questions, and we'll be sharing the contact there for you too. So it's not CalPro. We're here to kind of teach you in how to do these things and kind of the strongest and best ways to build an IET program. And Casas also helps with that compliance reporting and funding piece. All right. Finally, the topics that you wanted to focus on included developing a single set of learning objectives and integrated lesson plans, developing that team partnership, that IET collaboration, and also that action planning, like what do you need to consider, what potential challenges and what solutions. So the good news is we're going to be really leaning in and focusing on all of this content and topic that you as group want to do. So we're really happy to see what your goals are, and we'll hope to address and meet those needs in the training. And so let me talk a little bit about the training. There's 5 principal features of this unique hybrid professional learning opportunity. We will have 3 live interactive webinars, 75-minute webinars. Today is the first. We also have an online community of practice. That's that Moodle that you got invited to, and you'll hear more about it. But that's kind of an online space for you to ask questions, get all the materials that you need for the training, share resources, get assignments, submit assignments. And so Moodle is great because it's always there. We also have 2 day-long virtual training sessions where we'll be here in Zoom, but they're longer sessions. And then as at the end of our training, your group will be presenting a capstone project. You'll be working with your team on mini assignments along the way, all along the way, and presenting a final project in June. And don't worry, we're going to walk you through the whole thing. We'll do it together, and you'll be prepared for that assignment. The last component of this is that after many years of feedback from the clinic participants, who were asking for more support after the training through the implementation process, we've built in coaching. So your clinic will have the support of an IET coach, a CalPro IET coach, to support you for 9 months following the completion of the clinic. And again, we're going to talk more about that. But the idea is that we're here not just to help you design, right, and develop an action plan, but to really help you and support you through that implementation process. And we'll talk more about what is involved with coaching, but it's really monthly check-ins, kind of not a heavy burden for you via email or phone. And then between June and February, when our clinic ends in June, and then quarterly hour-long coaching sessions, right? So you have a little bit more time to address issues arising and get resources from your coach. But you'll hear a lot more about that as we go on. So the last thing I just want to share is the calendar of activities. You've already seen this. This is our first webinar, Kickoff and Orientation. We'll see you again on Friday, March 20th for our longer training session. There will be lunch and breaks built in, so don't worry. But we know that calendars can fill up quickly, so please be sure that you have these dates and times saved in your calendar now. And along with these kind of major activities that are assignments as we go through. And we can certainly share the calendar with you all again if you need it. All right. So let's now pivot and talk about what is IET and the rationale and really the research behind the model. We want to start at some of those key and foundational elements so that we all kind of share the same definition and understanding of the program model. So what is IET? So building on the WIOA, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act definition, which is what funds IET, this is the California Department of Ed's definition of IET. IET is a service delivery model that provides adult education activities concurrently and contextually within workforce preparation activities and workforce training. Concurrent and contextually means that within the overall scope of the IELCE program or the IET program, adult ed, workforce prep, and workforce training activities must be one of sufficient intensity and quality and based on the most rigorous research available. Two, use occupationally relevant instructional materials, and three, occur simultaneously. So we're going to talk a lot about how to do that and what that looks like. But in a nutshell, IET is an educational model that combines occupational skills training or CTE with workforce prep and adult ed ESL basic skills instruction to increase and expedite the educational and career advancement of our adult learners. And it does this really by providing concurrent and contextualized literacy and career training simultaneously. So some people have asked, like, well, how does the IET model accelerate student progress exactly? What does that mean, right? And so I just want to spend a moment on why the IET model was developed, right? And the reason for IET is really that the traditional sequential model of education in this country has historically required that our adult ed students complete adult ed, sometimes developmental ed or kind of prereq or preparatory classes in our community colleges and our ESL courses or our math preparation courses before being able to enter into post-secondary education or occupational training. So, for example, historically, students have had to take like a sequence of ESL classes, right, and pass some kind of a literacy exam before being eligible for admission into their career track or their career training or their major in college, right? That's kind of the traditional sequential model of education. And it poses a lot of challenges for adult learners, all of which I'm sure you guys are very familiar with, right? Including the length of time that sequence of courses can take, right? Time is the enemy of our students, right? Not because they're not committed and motivated, but because, we like to say a lot of our adult students are just one flat tire away of stopping out, right? Because something happens in their lives, their children, mandatory work schedules, right? So time can really be the enemy for our adult learners. Also, there's often a gap, right, between the highest level of adult basic ed or our high school equivalency and ESL programs and the entry level requirements for certificates, like the literacy level of our CTE programs or our degree programs. There is a low rate historically of persistence between adult ed and transition to post-secondary ed or CTE. So just historically in the research, adult students often don't make it or land in the next step, right? When programs are sequential and not integrated. And there's also can be inadequate or uncoordinated support services or services for helping students make that leap. And finally, the last thing is our pedagogy and our curriculum can be very different. I think you all know this. The way that we might teach in a CTE classroom or how we approach teaching can look very different than the way we do it in ESL and ABE classes. So IET was really designed, right, to integrate all the component parts of CTE, adult ed, and workforce prep, right? So that students could learn these things in an integrated way at the same time and achieve multiple learning objectives through contextualized literacy and concurrent enrollment. And what I want to say about IET is that it's been around for a long time. The biggest kind of and best known model is the one that our colleague Adria, actually worked in Washington State, which is called the IBEST model. And research really supports that there's a tremendous impact IET has on moving our non-traditional and adult students into a career pathway more quickly and helping them to obtain those post-secondary credentials and jobs that are in-demand occupations, really helping them to move forward with getting better work for themselves and their families and getting on a career a career that's both meaningful and provides some life-sustaining or family-sustaining wages. So research shows that students who were enrolled in Washington State's IBEST program, which is their version of IET, and is the longest running IET for adult model that we have in this country, that those students were more likely and are more likely than others to earn credits that count toward a college credential, to actually earn a post-secondary credential or a workforce training, a career training, and that they also make greater gains on basic skills tests like CASAS and TABE. So, with kind of having this great body of research on the effectiveness of the model, what do we really know about IET? How is it designed, right? So, there are really three required components of IET that we talked about in the definition that I shared with you. The heart of IET programming and integrated instruction is that single set of learning objectives and integrated curriculum that incorporate the specific workforce training content, that's the CTE, the development of the basic skills that could be reading, writing, listening, speaking. It could be either adult ed or ESL. Or in math also, we'll talk about that if our students need math in order to achieve a program, and those workforce preparation skills. Sometimes we call those employability skills. Those are the ones that are required in the workplace. It doesn't matter what job you have or what sector you work in, any employer wants these skills, and they're things like teamwork, digital literacy, critical thinking, right? And those, it doesn't really matter what job you have, those are kind of essential workforce skills. So the key to this is designing an integrated program and curriculum is really doing those things simultaneously and contextually rather than sequentially and separately. So just to kind of touch for a moment on what each of these things are, um, the the uh, uh, the the basic literacy skills, the purple circle, that's, very familiar to those of you who work as adult educators or ESL teachers or high school equivalency teachers, right? That's the basic reading, writing, listening, speaking, ESL, and math. That's that component. The second component is the workforce training. In California, we really tend to call it CTE, but workforce training is really the specific skills that our learners need to learn to be employed in a specific job, right? So that's your uh, welding, your certified nurse aide, your HVAC, your community health worker, whatever the specific training is that you're identifying for your IET program, the career training. And they can be delivered in a lot of different ways, right? That could be online, in classroom, it could be on the job. Some IET programs work with an employer and do incumbent worker training. So people who are already on the job and need an upgrade with that employer. It could be through apprenticeship. There's a lot of ways to deliver this workforce training, and we'll talk about some of that. And the last required component, is that workforce prep or those employability skills, right? And that's, like I said, the the skills that we all need, regardless of what field we work in, what job we have. Employers are looking for these skills in every single industry. These are kind of the top skills they say they need their employees to have, right? And those are things like critical thinking, digital literacy, those self-management skills, which could include working with others, utilizing resources. So there's a lot of those employability skills, and I think Maria is going to put in the chat the link to the employability skills framework. Thanks, Maria. She just put it there. We really suggest that you click on that link and download that. We find the employability skills framework to be the most helpful when we're thinking about those required workforce preparation skills. The other tool that we want to share with you is the IET at a glance guidance document that CDE, California Department of Ed, put together to help the field, to help you guys, help all of us understand what's workforce training? What do they mean when they say industry recognized credentials in workforce training versus what do they mean for workforce prep courses that count? Like, because in the beginning of IET, there was a lot of confusion. Like, if we do first aid or CPR, does that count as workforce training? Or if we're doing a basic Google Suite course or a Microsoft Suite course, is that workforce training? And so California Department of Ed put this together so that you could really see like what what is and isn't considered workforce training or what falls in workforce prep and workforce training. So we just posted that document for you too. And these are also, by the way, in Moodle. So again, just to touch base on our little Venn diagram here, these are really the three required components that make up integrated education and training. We are going to talk a lot and work a lot with you over the coming months to kind of show you what does this really look like in the classroom? How do you design a program? Like, how does this all really fit together? So, but we want to make sure you have that overview. The last thing that I want to share with you, again, we're throwing a lot at you, but these are resources we're going to be using over the months and they're kind of frameworks. So we want to make sure that we start off sharing them with you and that you have them on hand. Is there are the three required components that we just reviewed is really the service delivery model, if you want to think about it that way. The second piece are these IET quality indicators, and they're really a set of features that any IET program should aspire to have. And these are features that even if you've been running IET for a long time, there's always work to do to improve around uh, the quality of your program. So as IET program and classroom leaders, you can use these quality indicators to assess your existing programs or to plan new ones, to identify priority areas for improvement over time, like say, oh, we're not doing this and this is something we want to work on over the next year and develop an action plan around those best practice strategies. The 24 indicators, there's 24 indicators. And I think, yeah, Maria, thank you. She posted that in the chat for you. So again, you can save that on your desktop and take a look at it. Are organized around these areas you see on the graphic, right? So the first is IET program design, which refers to the intentional and unified design and development of a program that meets local labor market needs, provides a pathway to quality jobs for our students, and also aligns with federal and state policies. The second is around collaboration and industry engagement, and this has to do with ongoing collaboration with critical partners, employers, your students, even to make sure that you have established processes and tools for communicating and fulfilling the program's vision and mission and purpose. The third is curriculum and instruction. We're going to talk a lot about that, but that's really about that single set of learning objectives and opportunities for real world learning and the implementation of a contextualized curriculum. The fourth is student experience and progress, and that's really making sure in your IET program that you have provision of wraparound services, right, to help our students with any basic needs or logistical barriers that prevent them from successfully completing a course, and that there's, a way to help assist with learner progress. And then finally, this piece of management, staffing, and organization, which has to do with making sure that you have the resources that you need, communication strategies, and a sustainable model for developing and continuously improving your program. So we're going to go ahead and reference those quality indicators throughout and give examples of them and dig more deeply, but we just wanted to make sure that you have that framework as we get going. So with that and getting going, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Sudie now.
All righty. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay, there we go. Sorry, it took me a second. All right, so we're going to take some time now to walk through what this looks like in practice. We heard a lot of really great information from Amy, but let's talk about the practical exercises here. So, some considerations and questions to ask yourself, along with some examples of these things. So before you jump in, you really need to do extensive planning if you haven't already implemented some programs, but are looking to strengthen them, for example. So here are some questions that you may really want to consider. Which career pathway are you going to select? What IET model are you going to use? Who do you need to get involved? And how do you start the curriculum planning process? Now, we consider the first three questions during this section, or this session, I should say, but the curriculum planning will be the focus of several of our future sessions, but more specifically, later on in session two, we get really in the weeds on the curriculum planning and instruction and scaffolding. So, teachers, that day is really all about you. Um, so as you think about getting started and setting the stage for IET implementation, it's critical to really think about who's on your team and how to build the collaboration. Now, integrated instruction and successfully implementing IET models requires a new type of partnership and new ways of really looking and working between the departments of CTE and ESL, ABE, literacy programs, and the two separate instructors who have to work together. So to set the stage for this successful collaboration, there are a few processes and steps administrators and IET staff can take. First is to identify and hire leaders who are enthusiastic and experienced coordinators, advisors, teachers who could collaborate, experiment, and be committed to moving the students across the goal line together. That collaboration piece is huge. You also want to set expectations for co-planning and collaboration up front and make that ongoing. Those regular check-ins with teaching staff is going to be really important. Communication is huge. Visit each other's classes. I always say this, and we often hear about ESL teachers going and sitting in the CTE classroom or ABE teachers sitting in the CTE classroom. As a CTE teacher, I'm going to tell you it was beneficial for me to sit in the back of that ESL class and pick up tools and tips and tricks from the ESL teacher. So when I say visit each other's class, I really mean visit each other's class. ESL, ABE teachers, they're going to pick up the technical content, really thinking about how do we contextualize, what needs to be contextualized. But CTE teachers, you can also find ways to reinforce what they're learning in these basic skills and literacy classes just by observing your ESL teacher. There are so many things that teacher Cindy did when we worked together, with just simply pointing at what she was talking about was an aha moment for me. That seems simple to all of you, but it never occurred to me just point at what we're talking about. So there's just so many little tips and tricks I learned from sitting in that ESL class that really helped our integrated program work more smoothly. Um, in addition to that, two teachers cannot operate, um, really can't operate independently within an IET program. You have to be interdependent on each other because the curriculum is integrated and interdependent. So you really do have to work together. It really does not work well when you have the ESL teacher who's doing all the contextualization and IETifying it, and CTE teachers just going with their regular flow. You end up with a major disconnect when that happens. So you really have to work together. It really needs to be truly integrated. You also need to know if students are attending and making progress in each other's classes. And that's where that ongoing communication, check-in, water cooler conversation, just to stop by the hall, how'd it go today? Anybody have any problems? Any sticky points? Anything I need to reinforce in my class? Those type of conversations. And then scheduling, shared planning time, using your professional learning community meetings if you have those, department meetings, informal meetings, emailing, Teams messaging, text messaging, whatever works for you all, but just making sure you're staying in continuous communication about the program and the students and how you're doing working together. So by creating these processes and expectations, teachers will be able to develop a single set of learning objectives that really meets the students' needs and helps them succeed in the training. Any questions about the setting the stage part here? Okay. So I'm going to keep us moving. So when we think about this, let's have a quick conversation about it. How did you select your training pathway? And what were some of the considerations that you took into account when you were selecting that pathway? Go ahead and share in the chat. And we have 5 minutes here, so if one or two people would like to unmute and share verbally, please do so. We love hearing voices besides our own. So what pathway are you pursuing and how did you decide? Nobody's brave enough to unmute. Go ahead, Nilene. Where are you? You just
Hi,
disappeared. Oh, there you
can you hear me?
are. I see you now.
We are doing a health pathway on in-home support service, and it was a popular program, standalone, not IET. So we brought it in as an IET, and we have a great team here. Dr. Brown is here, and our dean, Vida Hill. So we have a great team from City College, but this is one of our pathways, and we are looking to improve more of the faculty integration, I would say, and perhaps kind of polish more of the work readiness, job
Mhm,
readiness classes that we
mhm.
integrate into the training. And, I think it was very popular. Our district now is taking over. A lot of other colleges are working on it. Dean Ramirez is here. And
Yes,
it's
I'm very familiar
yeah.
with Ms. Ramirez. I like her.
All right. Good. Hi, Angelica.
And you said it was healthcare. Is it home health aid or what's the
Yes,
career?
correct.
Okay, okay. And what's the job outlook looking like for you all? Is it
Um,
are students getting hired?
Yes, our students are some are currently higher and they're, gaining new skills, and some are um in the process of getting higher. Our instructors is um they have a network, so they're all students helping out each other even by word of mouth or where to look for jobs. It's not the highest paying job, but we have pathways for students to
To
move
continue
into other
stacking those
careers.
credentials. Love that. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to go to the chat and I'll come back to you, Angelica. Mary said we served students before launching their academic path. Oh, wait, hold on. Surveyed, not served. Helps so if I expand the box. Susan said they're doing accounting. Mary said that they surveyed students before launching their accounting pathway. Very cool. Jeff said, I think the initial choice of the caregiver pathway is that it fit well into our existing programs and curricula. Additionally, there is, it seems, always a need for medical in our area. Awesome. Corrine, they selected the child development and health pathway. I'm really interested what you mean. Oh, is it child development is one pathway and then you also have a health pathway?
Well, we had originally started with the health and wellness course when we were
Uh-huh.
developing the idea, and then it's kind of led into the child development pathway because a large component of that was based around child development. So I think that's where we're sticking. Our goal right now is to train our adult education students, many of them ESL students, to become paraprofessionals within our local school district. And so they're getting some CPR training. They'll be getting just a lot of different hands-on experience that will prepare them, proficiency exam, sort of sample tests to prepare them to get in there. And then the benefit is, they could be put in a school where their kids are. So it kind of is helping
A
facilitate and
win-win for everybody. Yeah.
all around.
Love that. I look forward to learning more about your program, Karina. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Jeff said regarding other pathways, paraeducator and hospitality seem to be based more on the need in a large community, then there's more likely still the case for hospitality. Um, our Corliss, I don't know what your first name is, sorry. The IET selected, they selected paraeducator pathway. Okay. And he said, our
I actually co-teach with Karina, and first name's Ruth. I didn't realize it.
Ruth, hi, Ruth.
I also wanted to piggyback on what Karina said because one of the biggest needs in the school district too is bilingual workers because
Mm-hmm.
graphics, and so our students are naturally going to meet those needs, and we have multilingual, we have bilingual, so it's a easy match with our students and their level of interest as well. They many
Yeah.
many have especially the moms have expressed interest in hours where they can work while their kids are in school. So
Yes, I think that's really important. We're aligning the needs with the community, with the learner and their family, and then also what can we actually do and provide realistically. Love that. Michelle, LACC Team One, by the way, there's a Team One and a Team Two, is focusing on entrepreneurship. There's a 7.9 growth outlook per the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Few schools doing paraprofessional in the group. Amy points out, yes, quite a few. And then Sadika said that they have health and related science pathways. And they recently brought forward several non-credit certificates, including the community health worker being one of those. And it's accessible to a wide range of students, including English language learners. and they have a great need for that in the community. So we're going to take one more comment from Mary before we move on.
Yeah, so let me lower my hand first. Okay, so we do have a few IELC pathways at our school which are, in place and up and running. So the one that I have the teachers here, the CTE as well as the ESL teachers is for the accounting program. But then now we're talking about paraeducators. So we do have a paraeducator class in the afternoons for our ESL students. And then we have a healthcare pathway where we have a CNA as well as a vocational nursing program,
Mhm.
which works on the IELC guidelines. And then we have um, so now, I mean, I just, I'm trying to get another pathway going because there is a class that is taught by our preschool teacher. So she does an introduction to early childhood preparation units, education, I guess. So there are students in her class who are taking classes at Chabot,
Mhm.
the community college, as well as taking classes for license certification to start their own childcare centers. So
Oh, so
yeah,
you could actually do a feeder program into the program at Chabot if you wanted to.
yeah, so I, reached out to the CDE as well as my CASA specialist and asked if this could be a pathway, and they said, yeah, why not? So
Hmm.
I'm going to present it, in this coming report. But having Susan and Kathy here and learning about the collaboration and all the things that they need to work together is such a great opportunity. And last year, I was the ESL CTE teacher who taught accounting in the class. So now, and the
Oh, so
cohort,
you get to
yeah,
switch hats this year.
yes.
Exciting. Exciting.
So,
Thank
but
you so
very,
much for
yeah,
sharing what you all
yeah,
are
very
doing.
glad to see you all.
Very good to see you all too. Yeah, I agree, Amy. Very cool with the home daycare providers and having that opportunity. It's a very specific and very in-demand entrepreneurship pathway. So that's very neat. Alrighty, so moving on. So most of these things, the types of things that we need to find out, you've already mentioned. You had excellent responses, and thank you. So we want to think about what are students asking for. So surveying your students, polling your students, small focus groups, those type of things. Is it an in-demand or growth occupation is really important. As some of you are already identified, you already know healthcare is in demand and they're constantly needing healthcare workers. So filling that need is huge. But thinking about other pathways you're doing, paraeducators, can they actually get that job in that region? Yes, check that box. That's great. Will that job also afford them a life-sustaining wage? 'Cause remember, that's the reason why that was included in WIOA is to help citizens earn a life-sustaining wage. And so if your WIOA program graduates I'm sorry, your IET program graduates them not getting above minimum wage, you want to think about why that is and how you can connect them to the next step in the pathway so they can make more money, because that's what this is all about, economic mobility for our learners. You also want to think about, does this credential fit in a career pathway so the student can continue on, like what you all were just talking, one of you was mentioning a moment ago, going to the next step in the pathway once they finish what they're doing with you all. An example of that is if you're going from CNA, certified nursing assistant, to licensed practitioner nurse, to registered nurse, and so on. You also want to think about how long is the training? Is it something they can complete in a relatively short period of time, such as 3 to 8 months? And can they then get out and get a job? Can they go to work in their new field as soon as they complete with you all? Thinking about that. Is the workload going to be a barrier for the student? Is the intensity and the schedule both rigorous and doable? We want to make sure it's something that is attainable for our students. And you also want to think about who will your partners be, especially if you're looking to another school or organization for CTE, or if you're thinking about job placement. Is there a good partner interested in collaboration? How do you make that work? So you want to start with in-demand jobs in your area, and that's going to be really, really helpful. And that information is available. So let's take a look at what some of this information shows us now. Now, these are predicted to be California's long-term 10 fastest growing jobs in the country. Now, when you think about your local area, how do you think, just looking at this, this is just to think about, you don't have to respond, but how do you think this compares to your local area? And do you know what the fastest growing jobs in your region are? Again, don't have to answer that right now because for homework, you will be doing that search and sharing what the fastest growing jobs in your region actually are. So think about it. If you already know, you're 10 steps ahead, and that's awesome. And if you don't know yet, then you'll get a chance to take a look. Now, there might be a lot of pathways you want to try as you're looking at what's in demand. You might be like automotive services is here, barbering, cosmetology, electrician is huge, pharmacy technician, whatever. You might start seeing all these really cool pathways coming in, and you might be thinking to yourself, we have this CTE program. We could do all of these, right? I want to caution you against that and to start with one. CTE, while IET is inclusive of CTE, it's not just CTE. So we want to make sure that you're giving yourself time to really apply and integrate and contextualize appropriately and do that well with one really strong pathway. And then once you get that pathway really strong and you've worked out those growing pains and you know what the touchy parts were, where were the sticky points, where were the areas that you really had a productive struggle and had to really work through it. Once you figure that out, then you can replicate the process repeatedly with new pathways because you've already gone through the growing pains. So I really recommend starting with one pathway, doing that really well before you replicate the process everywhere else. It's much harder to pivot and adjust 3 or 4 different pathways simultaneously than it is to do that on just one. So, as we looked at earlier, a key element is bringing a collaborative partnership and building that collaborative partnership. So, to do this, you have to develop a shared vision around what you expect and what you want your IET programming to look like. You need to have a shared vision that everyone needs to agree on why we're doing this. What's the reason and where are we trying to go? You want to have adequate planning time. Set aside time at monthly professional learning community meetings for academic and CTE teachers to share data and progress. Schedule separate meetings if you don't have professional learning communities. You want to have informal time or faculty learning communities for the college folks in here. You also want to make sure you have informal time. We're on the same campus. We should be able to talk to each other if we're running into something that we want to inform the other teacher about. You also want to make sure teachers, again, can visit one another's classrooms, set aside that upfront, ongoing curriculum planning time to integrate lessons, focus really on student outcomes. That's the main reason we're doing this is to support students. And so we want to to gauge how well we're doing with this. We want to really be looking at the student outcomes as well. And then share success with your interested parties, faculty, board members, advisory committees, employers, all the people who might be interested in hiring your students or knowing about your program. Now, we're going to focus really deeply on curriculum planning, like I said earlier in session 2, but I just want to bring these components up here so we're thinking about it throughout this clinic and not waiting until the very end to consider that curriculum planning time. Another big decision to make when you start planning your IET is which teaching model should you use? Now, I want to be very clear that all IET teaching is team teaching, but how that is organized can really look different in our California programs. So for alternating teaching, that is when students are enrolled in 2 different but coordinated courses. Now, in this model, your ESL or literacy teacher and the CTE teacher are teaching in 2 different classrooms at different times, and students attend the courses at different times, at least most of the time, right? Now, then there's also co-teaching. Now, with co-teaching, both the ESL and literacy and the CTE teacher are teaching in the same classroom, and the students are co-enrolled in ESL literacy and CTE courses at least some of the time. Now, there's hybrid models of this, so you could have some co-teaching and some alternating teaching. Perhaps they're attending each of your classes 4 days a week and they see both of you together 1 day a week. Or maybe 2 nights a week they're working with the 2 of you. 1 night a week they're only with the ESL and the other 2 nights they're with CTE. We'll look at some example schedules in a minute. But with co-teaching, you're in the same space at the same time, whether in person or virtually, at least some of the time is what we count as co-teaching in California. And then alternating teaching, different space, different time. But in both of these, we are teammates, we work together, we co-plan, and we have to have a team teaching approach. And I cannot say that enough, and we'll spend more time talking about team teaching in the future. Now, if you're already offering an IET program, which model are you currently implementing, and why did you choose that model? And again, there's no wrong answers here. We're just curious. Accounting is co-teaching. Okay, great, Mary. Thank you for sharing. What about others? Okay, Jefferson is doing co-teaching. Is that 100% co-teaching or just most, at least some of the time, kind of hybrid mix? Angelica says they're alternating at LACC. Where is Corina on my screen? Why can I not find her? I know she's here. Oh, there's Karina on my screen. Oh, she's typing. I'll stop bothering her. Hybrid, okay. Thank you, Karina.
Oh yeah,
Um,
sorry, I stepped away for a moment.
no, you're
But
fine. You're
we
fine.
do co-teaching and we are hybrid. Miss Ruth is online with the students that go into class. Excuse me, she's in person and online with the students in class, and then I'm online with our online learners, but also communicating with the in-person class. So we're kind of all around.
You are a hybrid little unicorn, aren't you? I like it. I like it.
It
We
Doing
really
love
whatever works, right? So work makes best for your student. Susan said similarly, I'm co-teaching, but one teacher joins via Zoom. Angelica said they've done co-teaching hybrid when a faculty member meets minimum qualifications in more than one stand-in IET. That's actually not co-teaching. That's just when you have a single teacher that's responsible. And it's funny I just use the word unicorn. But we also call that the unicorn model because very rarely do you have a teacher that has meets the requirements and that has the credentials to be both a CTE and an ESL teacher and that kind of thing. So every now and then you find somebody like that. And we have occasionally had those people in this group, and that's also really, really fun. Really cool to have. Carlos said they're alternating teaching, and then Jeff says, as far as he knows, historically they've used the alternating model. Probably this will be influenced by issues around location and the fact that not all students in the ESL portion of the program were enrolled in CTE portion and scheduling constraints. Oh, that's interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing. Every time you guys share something, I'm like, I want to know more stuff. All right. So moving forward, now when we think about the focus of instruction, each instructor really focuses on different things and they're going to have different levels of expertise. I am not an ESL instructional expert at all, not even a little bit. And Adria, would you say that you are a CTE instructional expert? Like, do you think you could teach like programming?
Not so low. Not a good idea.
I mean, I feel like we have a little bit of knowledge, but I don't think I could do what she does, and she might be able to do what I do. I don't know. I feel like I have some special skills. But strong IET models offer integrated, contextualized, and coordinated instruction. So, an example of a CTE teacher who does a lesson on patient care protocols. And that week, ahead of that lesson, the ESL teacher teaches the practices that have specific vocabulary sequencing of the procedural steps of the student. So when the student goes in to learn that patient care protocol, they already know the vocabulary going into that lesson because it's been front loaded. And the only reason they were able to do that is because the two instructors worked together to ensure that they were contextualizing and integrating properly. Now, when we think about the focus for instructors, they are kind of different. Our CTE teachers are going to cover, the technical education requirements of the pathway. And oftentimes they are very stringent and we can't really flex what's required to teach within CTE because when they do that industry certification exam, they have to be able to show evidence of knowledge in those cases, right? CT teachers also outline the duties and tasks that someone in that career performs as regulated by law, right? And then they also teach the necessary ability and skills that the student is going to need to be successful in that pathway. So it's a very kind of narrow focus for us CTE teachers. But then we go into the ESL literacy side, they're developing the students' language and literacy and basic skills that are relevant and contextualized to the career pathway. And that could include reading, writing, speaking, listening, even math can be included in integrated education and training. They're going to help to scaffold that content and provide opportunities for a student to practice basic skills in context. Now, earlier, Amy talked about the three different parts of IET, the workforce training, workforce prep, and then also your basic skills, ESL and literacy. I want to be clear here that when it comes to the workforce preparation, that's your employability skills, the skill anybody could use to get a job. Whereas workforce training, that's the skill, the specific career skill. Workforce prep applies to any job, workforce training specific to a job. Either teacher, CT or ESL, can address the workforce preparations tasks. I used to do resume writing in my classroom. We used to do teamwork and communication, all that stuff in CTE. But then we also would have in ESL, some of those were employability skills and work happening there too. Digital literacy, critical thinking, those type of things. So we're working together to cover those workforce preparation skills. You will decide as you're going through the lesson planning process and working through planning your program who is covering which workforce preparation skills and when is that happening. And so either teacher can do that. All right, before I move on into scheduling concerns, are there any questions about co-teaching versus alternating teaching? Okay. Does everybody understand that both models require teamwork and we are counting those as team teaching models? Okay, awesome. All right, so let's move forward. So scheduling considerations, we might be thinking, how does this actually work on the ground? Now, one of the hardest questions is how do we schedule IET in these multiple training and education components and make it work for the program and our students? All IET models and schedules are different and will be determined in large part by the training requirements as well as the student and teacher availability. The models I'm going to show you they reflect face-to-face classes, but there are a lot of emerging models of online and hybrid IET programs. So I want to show you some schedules that might work, but again, you're going to look at this as examples and then think about what works best for your programming, your availability, and your students' availability in a way that does not penalize already working students. All right, so this is what a daytime schedule with a partial co-teaching model might look like. So as you can see here, that there are times where the teachers are in the CTE class together, and then there are going to be times when the students are just with the CTE teacher. We see that on Tuesdays and Wednesdays here. And in the contextualized basic literacy, this one's at ABE class with the adult ed instructor on Thursday afternoons. So we see that there's little variance on which days they're seeing people. What I like about this schedule specifically is that that critical ongoing weekly time for teachers to plan and collaborate. We see that built in there. Monthly planning meeting is right there, right? Um, Also, time is set aside for the IET meeting. We've also noticed that they include other critical members of the program team, such as the navigator, advisor, leadership, employer, etc. So you can really put regular planning time on the schedule and allocate resources and set the stage for collaboration and integrated communication. So throughout, they have opportunities where they can see each other. They also have their monthly meeting dates clearly articulated. So it really helps it be clear, not just when students would be in class, but also when they would have opportunities to see each other, and also when they're free, so they know they can check in with one another. And don't worry, you'll get copies of these slides, and they'll be posted in Moodle for you. All right, so this is another example. This is what alternating teaching evening class might look like. While in this case, there are two instructors on different classes in the model, there's also a weekly scheduled teacher planning meeting that we see happening on Tuesdays. And again, they also have their monthly meeting dates scheduled in there as well. So this is what it could look like if we're not doing it at the same time. So if we go back and we look at the previous model, we do see where we have Monday and Thursday, they're in at the same time and they're alternating a bit. So this is more of a hybrid. And then if you look at this one, they aren't joining together in the same class at the same time at all, but they are still continuously meeting weekly and having a monthly meeting with the broader team. And then this is what an afternoon alternating teaching class could look like. If you're using a co-teaching model, this might look a little bit different. And some IET programs do run on Sundays and weekend schedules. So you want to also take into consideration those type of things. And a reason why an IET program might run on a Sunday or a weekend would be that might just be the best available time for students, especially if you have students who are working or have kids at home and they're not able to get into class regularly. Evening and weekend class programming tends to work better for those students also. So as we wind down, I would like to tap into the hive mind of collective wisdom in this in our camp and ask for those of you who are experienced IET providers, what was your greatest challenge when you first implemented IET? And for those of you who are not, and what solutions also did you find for those challenges? Go ahead and respond in the chat. We don't have a lot of time to unmute, so if you can respond in the chat. But for those of you who've done this before, have been doing this for a while, and some of you on the call, I've known you for a hot minute, so I know you've been doing this for a little bit. What are some of the challenges that you've had, and what have you done to overcome them? Or, what are some things that you could recommend to others in the group who may not have done this yet? Nobody has ever had an IET challenge ever? Not a one? Okay, there's one. Student retention. Uh, Mary, do you want to? Oh, so student retention. So, are you talking about getting them to complete and persist within the program, or?
So yes, it is. Not all students now, when we are having this accounting push in by the
Mhm.
CTE teacher. Now, not all students are interested in completing the accounting part. So,
Mm.
that poses a challenge. So we even thought about pulling maybe the accounting students out, students who are interested in that pathway, and then, maybe medical, also the health care pathway, and have separate classes for them, like,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but these
So
are
I
all in
think
the works,
what we're
yeah.
going to talk a bit about at the clinic about the no wrong door approach to IET and identifying who's the best, the suitability and fit when it comes to IET a little bit more and we'll have more time to dive into that. But yeah, that is something that comes up. Students really seeing and sticking with the program, doing both components equally, etc. So we're going to talk a lot about that. So I'm really glad you raised that as a challenge because that is something that comes up. Angelica mentioned changes in state requirements for students to be eligible to sit in for state exams. Yes, that can definitely be a challenge. And then you have to pivot and adjust your curriculum to meet the new requirements and standards. We did see in 2025 quite a bit of building and code standards changed nationally because some requirements were adjusted in the legislation. And so that meant a lot of different textbooks and things like that in some states had to be adjusted. California was not one because they did not adjust their standards in California. Karina said, greatest challenge can continuous steady enrollment. Yeah, there seems to be shifts in high enrollment and then low enrollment. Yeah, I hear you on that. Um, Viability of the program, student interest, classroom tools, materials. Yeah. Getting the word out about the program. Yeah, we're going to spend some time talking about recruitment and intake. Staying in constant contact with employer partners and adapt as changes occur. That is a very, very, very good example of a best practice you can do to pivot as you need to pivot. So on that, I'm going to transition us to Adria because I am a minute into her time and let her wrap us up. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Sudie. Thanks, everybody. We're coming right into the end of our time. And so let me just take you through some wrap up and some details that hopefully will have us landing on our feet and nice and smooth today. Let's do a little bit of reflection. We'll ask you to reflect and think about any takeaways or aha moments that you've had during today's webinar. Or you might think about one thing that sparked interest for you and that you'd like to learn more about. There's been a lot today, and fortunately, it's not a one shot session. We get to have months together to be able to continue to look at a lot of these interesting topics and questions that have come up today. But if you want to share with us what you're thinking about, we'd love to read that in the chat. And I'm going to carry us forward while my slide seems to be maybe frozen. Hold on. There we go. That's better. As you're typing away in the chat and sharing those reflections, I would like to take a moment to go over some assignments that you'll find in the Moodle course in a block labeled Assignments 2. One of these will be a visit to the California Employment Development Department website, and you'll identify, you heard about this one earlier today, but you'll identify the top 8 to 10 local employment projections for your area. We look today at statewide, but you'll be able to focus in on your area. You'll also watch an IET components and pathways video lesson. These tasks are accompanied by a few questions to guide your team in beginning the important discussion of what your IET plans will be and why. And we'll, of course, continue to work through those over the weeks and months of the clinic. All of the details that are here on your screen are in a homework handout. And so you'll have that as well, so you can refer directly to it. And these assignments should be completed before our first full day session, which will be, as you know, Friday, March 20th. We'll ask you to plan to complete these tasks by the day before the training. So that would be Thursday, March 19th. And again, you'll find these homework assignments in Moodle in that assignments to block. There's also, I will mention, an open discussion board in that block labeled, I think, let's discuss, uh, clearly labeled. This is open for your discussion and sharing as a clinic cohort. And you'll find discussion boards like this throughout the Moodle course as you work your way down through the different, weeks and segments. So there'll be one placed strategically after each of our webinars and virtual sessions to catch any comments, questions, conversations that may flow out of these meetings. So a few more logistics items. You might be wondering how to access that community of practice portal, how to download webinar slides and access recordings when we have those, how to access additional resources, how to keep track of assignments, etc. We have a link, I think, to the Moodle in the chat, and you've received that as well by email. But everything that we will use as resources and kind of your home base will be accessed through that Moodle. If you've participated in a CalPro, either community of practice or an online course before, this kind of interface and platform will already be familiar to you. But if not, no worries. And it's fairly intuitive, fairly self-explanatory, but if you have any questions or need any support, you are always welcome to reach out to me or to Maria. You have our contact information in that initial kind of Moodle access email. So don't hesitate to reach out for help. And we also have put together a checklist of Moodle activities. So you'll see that in the chat as well, and you'll find it also in the Moodle course that will help you keep up to date on, just working through the various deadlines. I don't want to say deadlines. That sounds sort of morbid, but anyway, all those sort of due dates and the things that will keep us on track time-wise, keeping us moving forward. Oops. I do want to show you one more thing on this slide. Do you see the little green circles? I'm marking those because just as part of navigating through the course, the way that the Moodle space is set up for this particular clinic, and because we do get to have a lot of time together over many weeks and months even, there's a lot on that page. And so I want you to notice next to Amy's face, there's a green circle that's marking something that says collapse all. We don't want you to collapse, but you can collapse each of these kind of segments. You can open or collapse them. If you collapse them all and then just use the little arrows that you see off to the left side to open the one that you want, it's a little bit easier and is less of a scroll, an eternal scroll. So I give you that as my Moodle tip. So we will see you at our next virtual session on March 20th. And please do remember to bring all that homework assignments that we mentioned earlier. Again, those are in Moodle for you. And the checklist that we linked will also help you stay organized and on track. We want to say thank you again for being with us today. Thanks in advance for your investment of time and energy in IET Clinic. We get excited building up to this, and hopefully I think you're excited to be here with us as well. But it's very wonderful and encouraging to see 100% participation in our kickoff and orientation today. So we're glad to have the energy and to share that with you. We look forward to working with you in these months ahead as you work with your teams to plan and implement these very powerful programs. And we will see you again soon. Take good care, everyone.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everyone. See you
Have a
in
good
March.
one. Bye.